Hello everyone, today we're going to be looking at some different tools and techniques that you can use on this sculpture project that we're working on. This is a project specifically for my AP 3D class, but you're welcome to watch it. I hope that this helps. So let's get to it. Alright, the first thing I want to talk about are some of the materials. The materials we're using for this project is a really thin gauge galvanized metal. And it's very malleable. It's easy to bend. So when you're talking about drawing and painting, a lot of times there's a very immediate and direct link from your brain, from your mind to your hand. It doesn't take any time between thinking of an idea and acting that idea out, okay? So I can, whatever comes to my mind when I'm using a pencil, I can just do whatever in an instant, okay? Well, in metal, sometimes it's a little slower. I may have to heat things up with a torch, use a hammer, use pliers, but this metal's so thin and malleable that I don't necessarily have to do that. There is a pretty quick link, okay? And that's one of the reasons we use this metal for this project, so that you guys can just explore line and focus on creating without, having to worry too much about all the stuff in between. Okay, and we'll learn projects where you manipulate things that are a little more difficult. But I want to show you guys some different techniques. So we chopped all these on the foot shear, and we learned about that the other day. But I can take and I can customize these pieces, so I don't have to keep them the way they were. One of the things I can use is these tin snips right here. Okay, and I can start to taper these ends down in whatever fashion I like. And these tin snips are very sharp, very easy to use, especially for very thin metals like this. But we also have some like this that I'll show you in a minute. They're a little more difficult to use, but they're actually a lot stronger. They can cut through things that are a lot thicker. Okay. So now that I've got this tapered, now I can kind of focus on creating what I wanted to. I can also take my pliers, even though it's so easy to manipulate this metal. I can take them and start trying to pull out some of these misshapen pieces here. So I can use that added strength to kind of shape this back. I can also take and hammer this around using something as a mandrel, and I can take one of my hammers and kind of beat out some of these imperfections, but some of them you can handle just with the pliers themselves. Now I've got this really nice line quality here. Alright, now this could be a really interesting piece for our sculpture. I took off that blunt edge that we had from chopping these on the foot shear. Another thing that we can do, here's another excellent example of kind of straightening things out with a plier. This piece is a little curved, which could be good. Alright, but if you don't want that curve, you can do that number. Another thing you could do, let's say, maybe is to put on some kind of texture on here, okay? And I use these bigger pliers for this. I'm just going to show you how these work. They're spring-loaded, so that's really nice. That's an advantage over the others, but they can be a little difficult to use sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and just notch these things about the same length apart. And if you wanted to, you could measure all this out and get it perfect, I suppose. But I'm kind of just opening my pliers at the same distance each time and sliding down about what feels right. And I could, if I wanted to, I could get a little rhythm out of this. I could do some bigger, some smaller, okay? Back over here. Do this down the other side. Now I can take my pliers and I can begin to manipulate this a little. Okay, now maybe I've got this really interesting texture that I may follow down the entire piece. I won't do it for this demo, just because it's a little time consuming and I want everyone to have plenty of time to work on their pieces. Alright. So that could make an interesting start to one of these pieces. And then another thing we could do, we could take something like this, and I could go ahead and get my pliers again. So I'm thinking about texture, I'm thinking about rhythm. I don't have to get these perfect, but I do want to get enough that it looks professional and looks deliberate, right? I could also save the little pieces from here. Okay, so now I have this really interesting pattern. I can keep it like this. I could also come to it on the other side, or I could even stagger the pieces a little. So I could do something like I could change the line quality. I could maybe make some pieces thicker, some thinner. Okay, and so you guys get the idea. Alright, so I can really use these tools to kind of manipulate things. I want you guys to explore line and kind of just see what happens. Kind of let this be intuitive. And then after that, we'll kind of go from there and apply some of our design skills to some of these things that we create. See if we can't just kind of explore line and create an interesting line-based sculpture. Another thing we could do is we could use some of the other shavings off of the other pieces, right? So, you know, you could use all these little bits if you want to. I'm sure there's something creative we could use them for. So that's just some kind of food for thought there. Alright, that's it for today's demo. I'll see you guys next time.
King of the road, trailer for sailoring, that trailer for sailoring, ain't no cigarettes but trailer for sailoring. Give, man to me, don't pay no trailer for sailoring. Sailoring, ain't got no trailer for sailoring. Give man to me, give the road, trailer for sailoring. Man, trailer for sailoring, ain't got no cigarettes but give, man to me, don't pay trailer for sailoring, rules to let trailer for sailoring, ain't got no trailer for sailoring. Give, man to me, give the road. King of the